When discussing atheism topics, it is necessary to differentiate branches of atheist philosophy from other types. This is a distinction often not understood by those unfamiliar with the modern atheist movement. While atheism by itself is not a religion, there are in fact distinct kinds of philosophical schools of thought that differentiate types of atheism from one another. One of the most popular types is what is labeled New Atheism, and that is what we will discuss today in this video. Let me read you the definition for New Atheism that I created for my book, Martel's Concise Encyclopedia of Modern Philosophy Concepts. This is an encyclopedia I created that summarizes complex philosophical ideas, so it is easy to understand for those new to philosophy. This is the description I created, based on my research. New Atheism is a modern intellectual movement that emerged in the early 21st century, characterized by a strong critique of religion and an advocacy for secularism and science. This movement gained prominence through the works of four key figures, Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris and Daniel Dennett, who together are often referred to as the Four Horsemen of New Atheism. They are known for their critical and often confrontational stance against religion, arguing that it is not only irrational but also harmful to society. The roots of New Atheism can be traced back to the growing visibility and influence of religious fundamentalism in global politics, particularly in the early 2000s. The September 11th attacks on the World Trade Center in 2001, for instance, served as a catalyst, heightening public discourse about the role of religion in fostering extremism. In response, New Atheists call for a society guided by rationality and scientific inquiry rather than religious dogma. Richard Dawkins, an evolutionary biologist, contributed significantly to the movement with his 2006 book, The God Delusion, in which he argues that belief in a supernatural creator qualifies as a delusion, a persistent false belief held in the face of strong contradictory evidence. Dawkins' work has been influential in popularizing atheistic perspectives and inviting public discourse on the subject. Christopher Hitchens, a journalist and literary critic, authored God is Not Great: How Religion Poisons Everything. In this book, Hitchens criticizes religion as a source of violence and repression and argues for the superiority of secular ethics. Hitchens was known for his eloquent and often provocative style in both writing and public debates. Sam Harris, a neuroscientist and philosopher, contributed to New Atheism with his book The End of Faith, Religion, Terror, and the Future of Reason. In it, Harris examines the intersection of faith and rationality, emphasizing the dangers of religious extremism and the irrationality of faith-based beliefs. Daniel Dennett, a philosopher and cognitive scientist, approaches the topic from a scientific perspective, particularly through evolutionary theory. In Breaking the Spell, Religion as a Natural Phenomenon, he treats religion as a natural phenomenon that should be studied scientifically. New Atheism has been criticized on various fronts. Critics argue that it sometimes adopts an overly aggressive tone towards religious individuals, potentially alienating moderates and those who find value in religious community and practices. Critics also accuse New Atheists of oversimplifying complex theological and philosophical issues, and of ignoring the positive roles that religion can play in individual lives and societies. Moreover, some scholars argue that New Atheism lacks a nuanced understanding of religion's cultural and historical contexts, treating all forms of religious belief and practice as equally detrimental without acknowledging the diversity within religions. In summary, New Atheism represents a significant trend in contemporary atheistic thought, marked by its vocal criticism of religion and its strong advocacy for secularism and science. While influential, it remains a controversial movement, both celebrated for its commitment to rationality and criticized for its perceived stridency and reductionism. As for my personal views on the New Atheism movement, I think there are many good ideas in the material produced by its notable authors. The issue I find is that they generally fail to provide a suitable alternative moral framework to replace the role of traditional superstitious religions in society. For example, Richard Dawkins has often stated people should just create their own personal moral codes, which is just not realistically something the majority of people are going to do. This is primarily because people use religion as a way to network and form communities among those who share common beliefs. So if everyone creates their own personal codes, it becomes impossible to form such communities as there is no common ground. I also think it's unreasonable to expect stable communities to exist if everyone has entirely different beliefs. As another example, Sam Harris has often championed versions of utilitarianism as a replacement for traditional religions. Utilitarianism is the belief that what causes pleasure is good and what causes pain is bad, which seems simple enough on the drawing board, but in actual practice is not a reliable way to define such concepts, as what can cause pleasure for one person can cause pain for another. I also think there are many times a person needs to go through unpleasant experiences in order to achieve desirable results, so Harris fails to provide an adequate replacement for religions like Christianity when he turns to something as disorganized as utilitarianism. This is why I developed chivalric humanism as my personal philosophy, which I talk about on this channel in my other videos. I am of the opinion that a well-structured virtue-based ethical framework is necessary for atheists to adopt, if they genuinely want to replace the role of superstitious religions, yet retain the positive attributes of these religions, such as stable communities. If you enjoyed this essay and want to learn more about philosophy, I have other videos on this channel. You can also buy my book, Martel's Concise Encyclopedia of Modern Philosophy Concepts. This is an encyclopedia I created that summarizes complex philosophical ideas, so it is easy to understand for those new to philosophy. It is a very affordable book available for purchase on Amazon.